Nyala sat motionless on the woven mat in her mother's hut, her dark eyes fixed on the earthen floor as the elders of her village discussed her future as if she weren't present. At 17, she had imagined many paths her life might take, but marriage to Baba Musa, a man of 63, had never been among them. The wrinkles on his ebony face told stories of decades she had not yet lived. "It is decided then," Elder Kwame announced, his deep voice resonating through the small space. His coal-black skin glistened with sweat in the afternoon heat, the tribal markings on his forehead creasing as he nodded solemnly. "The bride price has been agreed upon. The wedding will take place when the next full moon rises." Nyala's mother, Amma, reached for her daughter's hand. Her calloused palm, worn from years of grinding millet and carrying water from the distant well, offered little comfort. "This is a blessing, my child," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Baba Musa is respected throughout the region. His farms are fertile. His cattle are many. You will never know hunger." But Nyala could not meet her mother's gaze. Behind them, her 4 younger siblings huddled together, their thin frames and hollow cheeks testament to the drought that had plagued their village for 3 seasons. 2 harvests had failed. The family's once healthy goats had dwindled to a single bony animal that gave barely enough milk for the youngest child. When Baba Musa finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of authority that came with age and wealth. "I will care for her as a precious jewel," he promised, the gold of his ceremonial necklace gleaming against his dark chest. "And her family will become my family. No one will go hungry." Nyala's father, Kofi, nodded gratefully, his normally proud shoulders stooped with the burden of failing to provide. The drought had stolen not just their crops but his dignity. "My daughter has been raised to honor her elders and bring pride to those who have given her life," he said formally, though Nyala could hear the strain in his voice. As the arrangements continued, Nyala slipped away, her bare feet silent on the packed earth. Outside, the setting sun cast long shadows across the village. In the distance, she could see the silhouette of Jabari, the young herdsman who had shared secret smiles with her at the community well, who had promised to ask for her hand when his herd grew large enough. "Nyala." The voice behind her belonged to her grandmother, Deka, whose wisdom was respected even by the village elders. The old woman's face was a map of life's journey, each line telling of joys and sorrows experienced across 8 decades under the African sun. "Your tears fall like rain on parched earth. Grandmother, how can I marry a man older than my own father?" Nyala whispered, her voice catching. "I had dreams." The old woman's dark eyes softened. "In our tradition, a woman's strength is measured not by the ease of her path but by how she walks it," she said, placing a gnarled hand on Nyala's cheek. "I too was a young bride to an older man. Your grandfather was 30 years my senior. But did you love him?" "Love grew, like a baobab tree, slowly, but with roots so deep that nothing could uproot it." Deka's voice carried the wisdom of generations. "Remember, child, sometimes the greatest act of love is sacrifice. Your marriage will save your family." As darkness fell, the weight of responsibility settled on Nyala's slender shoulders. Across the village, she could see the lights in Baba Musa's compound, the largest in their community. Would she find happiness there? Or would her youth wither before it had fully bloomed? That night, as her siblings slept peacefully for the first time in months, their bellies full from the gifts Baba Musa had already sent, Nyala lay awake. Tears slid silently down her temples, disappearing into her tightly braided hair. In the darkness, she made a silent vow to face her fate with the dignity her grandmother had spoken of, even as her heart ached for what might have been. The morning of Nyala's wedding dawned with an ironic beauty, the sky a perfect azure canvas stretching over the village. Women from neighboring communities had arrived before sunrise, their colorful head wraps creating a sea of movement as they prepared for the celebration. Among them was Nyala's best friend, Amara, whose eyes held the same worry that had kept Nyala awake through the night. "Hold still," Amara whispered as she applied the traditional marriage patterns to Nyala's skin, her fingers deft with the henna paste. The intricate designs swirled across Nyala's hands and up her forearms, symbols of fertility and prosperity that felt more like chains than blessings. "You look beautiful." In the corner, Nyala's youngest sister, Zola, watched with wide eyes, her 6-year-old face a mixture of excitement and confusion. "Will you still come and tell me stories when you live in Baba Musa's big house?" she asked, her small hand reaching for Nyala's. Nyala forced a smile. "Of course I will, little one. And I will bring you sweets from the market." The promise felt hollow even as she spoke it, knowing that as Baba Musa's wife, her freedom to visit her family would depend entirely on his permission. Outside, the drumming began, signaling the start of the procession. Elder women entered, carrying clay pots of special oils to anoint the bride. They sang traditional songs that told of a woman's journey from childhood to marriage, their powerful voices filling the small hut with melodies that had accompanied countless brides before her. "It is time," announced Aunt Zalika, her statuesque figure commanding attention as she entered bearing the bridal cloth, a richly dyed indigo fabric that had been in their family for generations. The deep blue against Nyala's ebony skin would symbolize her purity and worth. As they draped it around her shoulders, Nyala caught her mother wiping away tears. "Why do you cry, Mama?" Nyala asked softly. "Is this not a day of celebration?" Amma cupped her daughter's face in her hands. "These are tears of both joy and sorrow, my child. Joy for the woman you have become, sorrow for the child I must let go." Her mother's dark eyes, so like her own, searched Nyala's face. "I was younger than you when I married your father. I too was afraid." Before Nyala could respond, the drums outside changed their rhythm, announcing the arrival of Baba Musa and his entourage. The older women hurriedly finished their preparations, placing the ceremonial headpiece atop Nyala's braids. The weight of it pressed down, a physical reminder of the burden she was about to assume. As she was led outside, the brightness of the sun momentarily blinded her. When her vision cleared, she saw the entire village gathered in their finest clothes. Children had gathered wildflowers to scatter on the ground. The men of Baba Musa's family stood proudly, their traditional robes a statement of wealth and position. And there was Baba Musa himself, standing tall despite his years, his face solemn beneath his embroidered cap. Beside him stood his son, Jelani, a man of 40 with hard eyes that assessed Nyala coolly. As Baba Musa's eldest son from his first wife, now deceased, Jelani would be her stepson, though he was more than twice her age. The ceremony proceeded as tradition dictated. Village elders spoke blessings over the union. Gifts were exchanged. Promises were made. Through it all, Nyala moved as if in a dream, her responses automatic, learned from watching other brides. When Baba Musa took her hand in his weathered one, she felt a tremor pass through her body. From the crowd, she caught a glimpse of Jabari, standing at the back, his face a mask of controlled emotion. Their eyes met briefly before he turned away, disappearing into the throng of villagers. With him went the last vestige of her childhood dreams. The feast that followed was lavish by village standards. Baba Musa had spared no expense to demonstrate his wealth and generosity. Goats had been slaughtered, rice prepared with precious spices, palm wine poured freely. Children ran about with rare treats of sweet cakes, their faces smeared with delight. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the celebration, Nyala sat beside her new husband, accepting congratulations and blessings from what seemed like hundreds of well-wishers. Her cheeks ached from the forced smile she maintained, her eyes dry from unshed tears. "You have made me proud today," Baba Musa said quietly, his deep voice meant only for her. "I know this is not easy for a young woman. But you will see, in time, the wisdom of this match." Looking out at her family enjoying the abundance that had been absent for so long, Nyala could only nod. Her father stood taller today, his dignity somewhat restored. Her siblings played with full bellies. Her mother spoke animatedly with other women, the strain momentarily lifted from her face. As night fell and the time approached to leave for Baba Musa's compound, Nyala's grandmother sought her out one last time. "Remember, child," the old woman whispered, pressing something into Nyala's palm. "Even in the hardest earth, seeds find a way to grow." Looking down, Nyala saw a small carved wooden amulet, her grandmother's most prized possession, said to bring strength to the wearer. Closing her fingers around it, she felt the first genuine emotion of the day, gratitude for this small token of love and hope. Baba Musa's compound sprawled impressively at the edge of the village, a testament to his status as one of the wealthiest men in the region. 5 round huts surrounded a central courtyard, their thatched roofs meticulously maintained, their walls freshly painted with traditional designs. Fruit trees cast dappled shadows across the swept earth, and the sound of chickens clucking near their coops provided a constant backdrop. It was a home that would have impressed Nyala under any other circumstances. Now, as she was led through the entrance by Baba Musa's sister, Fulami, it felt like a beautiful prison. "This will be your hut," Fulami said, her tone not unkind but firm. The woman's dark face bore the same tribal markings as Baba Musa's, her bearing regal despite her advanced age. "As the new wife, you are responsible for keeping the central courtyard clean, tending the cooking fire, and assisting with the evening meal. You will rise before the sun and sleep after all others have retired." Inside the hut, Nyala found a space larger than her family's entire home. A raised sleeping platform covered with woven mats occupied one side, while beautifully crafted storage containers lined the walls. Fresh flowers had been placed in clay pots, a welcoming touch that brought an unexpected lump to her throat. "My brother has waited many years to take another wife," Fulami continued, watching Nyala closely. "His first wife, McKenna, died 5 rainy seasons ago. She was beloved by all. You would do well to honor her memory by serving this household with the same dedication." Nyala nodded, uncertain how to respond. She placed her small bundle of possessions, a change of clothes, a wooden comb, her grandmother's amulet, on a low stool. "I will try to be worthy of this home," she said softly. Fulami's stern expression softened slightly. "Girl, I know this is not the marriage of your choosing. Few of us get such luxury. But Baba Musa is a fair man. He does not raise his hand in anger. He provides abundantly. These are not small things." Before Nyala could respond, voices outside announced the arrival of the household members, gathering to formally welcome the new bride. Stepping into the courtyard, Nyala found herself surrounded by curious faces, Baba Musa's adult children, their spouses, grandchildren, and various relatives who lived within the compound. Jelani, the eldest son she had noticed during the ceremony, stood at his father's right hand, his expression unreadable. Beside him was his wife, Safia, whose elaborate head wrap and multiple bracelets spoke of her status as the senior woman of the household until now. Her welcoming smile did not reach her eyes. "My family," Baba Musa announced, his voice carrying across the courtyard, "today we welcome Nyala as my new wife and your mother, sister, daughter." His hand on Nyala's shoulder was heavy, possessive. "She is young and will need guidance in the ways of our household. I expect all to show patience and respect." As tradition dictated, each family member came forward to present Nyala with a small gift, a cooking pot, a woven basket, beads for her hair. With each offering came whispered advice, some genuine, some thinly veiled warnings. "Keep your eyes lowered when my father's business associates visit," Jelani murmured as he presented her with a leather-bound book. "Men might misinterpret a direct gaze from one so young and beautiful." His wife, Safia, was more direct. "Remember your place, child bride," she said under her breath while offering a string of glass beads. "This household ran smoothly before you arrived. Do not think to change what you do not yet understand." As the evening progressed, Nyala was shown her duties by the other women. The water jars that needed filling from the well each morning. The grinding stones where millet would be prepared. The special clay pot where Baba Musa's food must be cooked, separate from the others. When night fell, the family dispersed to their respective huts, leaving Nyala alone with her new husband. Her hands trembled as she helped him remove his ceremonial robes, as she had been instructed to do by Fulami. In the dim light of the oil lamp, Baba Musa's aging body seemed simultaneously frail and imposing. "You are afraid," he observed, his voice softer than it had been all day. "That is natural. But I am not a cruel man, Nyala. I will not demand what is not freely given." He sat heavily on the sleeping mat, suddenly looking every one of his 63 years. "Tonight, you may sleep there," he added, indicating a smaller mat in the corner of the hut. "Tomorrow is soon enough to begin our life together." Relief washed over Nyala like cool water, unexpected and profound. "Thank you, my husband," she whispered, the formal address feeling strange on her tongue. Later, as Baba Musa's snores filled the hut, Nyala clutched her grandmother's amulet and stared into the darkness. In the compound beyond, she could hear the night sounds of a large family, a baby's cry quickly hushed, murmured conversations, the occasional laugh. These people were now her people, this place her home. For the first time since the arrangement was announced, Nyala allowed herself to consider that perhaps, over time, she might find a place here. Not happiness, perhaps, that seemed too much to hope for, but purpose. Dignity. Perhaps even respect. With that small, fragile hope, she finally drifted into exhausted sleep. 3 months into her marriage, Nyala had settled into the rhythm of life in Baba Musa's compound. Each day followed a predictable pattern, rising before dawn to kindle the cooking fires, preparing the morning meal, fetching water from the well, grinding millet for the day's bread, tending to the small garden of vegetables behind her hut, serving her husband and his visitors with the deference expected of a young wife. The work was hard but not unbearable. What weighed more heavily was the isolation. Though surrounded by family, Nyala remained an outsider. Safia, Jelani's wife, maintained her position as the true authority among the women, undermining Nyala's efforts with subtle criticism and revision. The younger women, taking their cue from Safia, kept their distance, sharing whispers and laughter that fell silent when Nyala approached. Only Baba Musa's youngest grandchild, 7-year-old Tao, seemed to accept her without reservation, often following her on her chores and chattering about his day. His innocent friendship was a rare bright spot in Nyala's new life. "Why are you always sad?" Tao asked one afternoon as he helped her collect eggs from the chicken coops. His round face, so like his grandfather's, was creased with genuine concern. Nyala managed a small smile. "I'm not sad, little one. Just thinking. About your family? Grandmother Safia says you cry at night for your mother." The observation, so accurate, startled Nyala. She hadn't realized her quiet tears had been noticed, let alone reported and discussed. "I miss them sometimes," she admitted. "But this is my home now." Tao nodded solemnly, his dark eyes wise beyond his years. "Grandfather misses people too. I hear him talking to grandmother McKenna sometimes, even though she's gone to the ancestors." This revelation gave Nyala pause. She had never considered that Baba Musa might also experience loneliness. In their 3 months of marriage, he had been unfailingly polite but distant, sleeping separately more often than not, treating her more as a household manager than a wife. On the rare occasions when he did claim his marital rights, it was with a perfunctory efficiency that left Nyala feeling more like a duty than a desired partner. That evening, as Nyala served Baba Musa his dinner in the privacy of their hut, she found the courage to speak beyond the usual respectful inquiries about his day. "My husband," she began hesitantly, "the child Tao tells me you sometimes speak to your first wife. He says you miss her." Baba Musa's hand stilled, the piece of bread halfway to his mouth. For a moment, his expression darkened, and Nyala feared she had overstepped. Then his face softened with a sadness she had never seen before. "McKenna and I grew up together," he said finally, setting down his food. "We were married for 42 years. When the fever took her, it was like losing part of myself. He looked directly at Nyala, really seeing her perhaps for the first time. You are very young to understand such things. I understand loss, Nyala said quietly, thinking of her own dreams, abandoned for her family's survival. And loneliness. A moment of connection passed between them, fragile but real. Baba Musa nodded slowly. Perhaps you do. The next morning, a commotion at the compound entrance disrupted the household routine. Nyala emerged from the cooking hut to find Jabari, the young herdsman who had once hoped to marry her, standing in heated conversation with Jelani. A small crowd had gathered to watch the confrontation. This is not proper, Jelani was saying, his voice carrying across the courtyard. You cannot simply appear and demand to speak with my father's wife. Jabari stood his ground, taller than Nyala remembered, his lean body tense with determination. I bring news from her family. Her sister is ill. I was asked to deliver this message personally. Nyala's heart stopped. Zola, she called out, rushing forward without thinking. Is it my little sister? Seeing her, Jabari's expression softened. Yes. The fever came 3 nights ago. Your mother asks for you. Without hesitation, Nyala turned to find Baba Musa, who had emerged from his meeting hut at the disturbance. My husband, I must go to them. Please. Baba Musa's face was unreadable as he looked from Nyala to Jabari and back again. You know this young man, he observed, not a question but a statement. He is from our village, Nyala answered carefully. He brings news that my sister is ill. A long silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken questions. Finally, Baba Musa nodded. You may go. Folami will accompany you. Relief flooded Nyala, but it was short-lived. I find it interesting, Jelani interjected, stepping forward, that this messenger sought you out specifically, new wife. And that his eyes speak of more than concern for a sick child. Safia moved to stand beside her husband. Indeed. We all saw how quickly you ran to him. Her voice carried just enough insinuation to plant a seed of doubt. Baba Musa's expression hardened. Is there truth in what they suggest, Nyala? Trapped in the accusation, Nyala looked from face to face, finding no allies among her husband's family. Jabari and I grew up together, she said truthfully. There was a time, before our betrothal, when his family might have approached mine. But that was before. Now I am your wife. Yet he looks at you still as a man looks at a woman he desires, Jelani pressed. And you rushed to him without proper modesty. I rushed because my sister is ill. Nyala protested, feeling the situation spiraling beyond her control. I meant no disrespect. Baba Musa raised a hand for silence, his authority immediate. Enough. You will not go, Nyala. I will send Folami with medicines and a message of my concern. His eyes, when they met hers, had lost the momentary connection of the previous evening. Return to your duties. The young man will leave immediately. Desperation welled in Nyala's chest. Please, my husband. Zola is only 6. She asks for me. I have spoken. Baba Musa turned away, signaling the end of the discussion. Jelani, see that the herdsman leaves our compound. As Jabari was escorted away, he cast one last look at Nyala, his expression a mixture of sympathy and something deeper that she dared not name. In that moment, something shifted inside her, the fragile hope she had nursed these past months crumbling like dry earth between her fingers. That night, alone in her hut while Baba Musa met with village elders, Nyala made a decision that would change everything. The night was moonless, perfect for what Nyala had decided to do. She moved silently through the sleeping compound, a small bundle of essentials clutched to her chest. 3 days had passed since Jabari's visit, 3 days in which no word had come from her family, though Folami had indeed been sent with medicines. 3 days of pointed glances and whispered conversations that fell silent when she approached. 3 days of Baba Musa's cold formality, the brief connection they had shared completely vanished. She could not live this way, distrusted, isolated, prevented from seeing her family even in times of need. Whatever security her marriage had bought now seemed too high a price. At the compound gate, a figure materialized from the shadows, causing Nyala to stifle a gasp. It was Tao, Baba Musa's young grandson, his eyes wide in the darkness. "You're leaving," he said, not a question but a statement of fact. Nyala knelt before him, her heart pounding. "I must see my sister, little one. She needs me." "But you'll come back?" His small voice wavered with uncertainty. The question hung between them, demanding truth even as Nyala's instinct was to offer comfort. "I don't know," she admitted finally. "Your grandfather is angry with me." Tao nodded solemnly. "He's sad, not angry. Like when Grandmother McKenna went away." He reached out, touching her cheek with a small hand. "I'll tell him you'll come back when you're ready." Tears threatened, unexpected and unwelcome. This child, this innocent, had shown her more kindness than any adult in the compound. "Thank you, Tao," she whispered. "Now go back to bed before you're missed." After he had slipped away, Nyala pushed open the gate and stepped into the freedom of the night. The path to her family's village was well known, though she had not traveled it since her wedding day. Under normal circumstances, it would be unthinkable for a woman to walk alone at night, but desperation made her brave. She had gone perhaps half the distance when she heard footsteps behind her. Panic seized her as she quickened her pace, only to hear the footsteps accelerate in response. A hand caught her arm, and she whirled, prepared to fight. "Nyala, wait." The voice belonged to Jabari, his familiar features barely visible in the dim starlight. Relief made her knees weak. "What are you doing here?" "I've come every night, hoping," he admitted. "I couldn't leave you there, not after seeing how they treated you." His hand was still on her arm, warm and steady. "Your sister is better. The fever broke yesterday." The news lifted a weight from Nyala's heart, but didn't change her course. "I still need to go home. I can't stay in that compound, Jabari. Not anymore." Together they walked through the night, speaking little but drawing comfort from each other's presence. As they neared her family's village, the first hint of dawn lightened the eastern sky. "What will you do?" Jabari asked finally. "Baba Musa won't simply let you go. There was a contract, a bride price." "I don't know," Nyala admitted. "But I cannot live as I was living, cut off from my family, always suspect, never truly accepted." She looked at him directly for the first time since they'd begun walking. "What about you? Why risk Baba Musa's anger by helping me?" Jabari's gaze didn't waver. "You know why." The simple answer held years of unspoken feelings, dreams deferred, possibilities denied. But before Nyala could respond, they crested a small rise and saw her family's village below, and the unmistakable figure of Baba Musa standing outside her parents' hut, his ceremonial staff marking him even at this distance. "He's here already," Nyala whispered, freezing in place. "How is that possible?" "He has horses," Jabari pointed out grimly. And Tao might have told him immediately. Fear gripped Nyala, not for herself but for her family. What would Baba Musa demand in retribution for her flight? What penalty would he exact? "I should go alone," she said, pulling away from Jabari. "This is between my husband and me." Jabari shook his head stubbornly. "I'm coming with you." As they approached, Nyala could see that a gathering had formed. The village elders stood in a semicircle. Her parents waited anxiously at their hut entrance. And in the center stood Baba Musa, his face lined with what Nyala was surprised to recognize not as anger but as profound weariness. When he saw her, something shifted in his expression, relief, perhaps, or resignation. "So you have returned," he said as she stopped before him, his voice carrying to the silent observers. Nyala straightened her shoulders, finding courage she hadn't known she possessed. I came to see my sister, who was ill. As was my right. Your right was to ask my permission, Baba Musa countered, though without the heat she had expected. Not to flee in the night like a thief. And would you have granted it? Nyala challenged. After forbidding me before? After allowing your son and his wife to sow distrust? A murmur went through the gathered crowd at her boldness. Even her father looked alarmed at her direct confrontation of her husband. But Baba Musa merely studied her face, as if seeing something new there. Perhaps not, he admitted finally. I was troubled by the young man's obvious feelings for you. Feelings that were known before our marriage, Nyala said, careful to keep her voice respectful despite her defiance. Feelings that I set aside when I became your wife. Baba Musa's gaze shifted to Jabari, who stood protectively near Nyala. And yet here he is, having helped you escape. He helped me reach my family safely, nothing more, Nyala insisted. I made this choice alone. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of custom, obligation, and unspoken truths. Then, unexpectedly, Baba Musa sighed deeply. I had a dream last night, he said, his voice dropping so that only those closest could hear. McKenna came to me, as she sometimes does. But this time, she was angry. A faint smile touched his lips. She told me I was a fool to try to keep a young bird in an old cage. That true respect must be earned, not demanded. Nyala stared at him, uncertain where this was leading. I am an old man, Nyala, Baba Musa continued. Set in my ways, perhaps. But not so blind that I cannot see what is before me. He looked between her and Jabari once more. You fulfilled your family's obligation. You came to my home and served honorably. I cannot fault your character or your diligence. He turned to address the village elders. This marriage was made for practical reasons, to sustain this village through drought, to provide for a family in need. Those reasons remain valid, regardless of where Nyala resides. Confusion rippled through the gathering as Baba Musa continued, I release this young woman from her obligations as wife, but not her family from our contract. My support will continue as promised. Disbelief rendered Nyala speechless. This was unprecedented, a husband voluntarily releasing his wife while maintaining the economic support that had been the marriage's purpose. Why? She finally managed to ask. Why would you do this? Baba Musa looked at her, his eyes reflecting the growing light of dawn. Because cages break either the bird's wings or its spirit. And I find I do not wish to be responsible for either. He glanced at Jabari. And perhaps because I remember what it was to be young, to love without calculation. As the implications of his words sank in, Nyala felt tears begin, not the silent, hidden tears she had shed these past months, but open, honest tears that held both grief and gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. For your generosity, for your wisdom. Baba Musa nodded once, acceptance and farewell in the gesture. Then he turned and walked away, his tall figure silhouetted against the rising sun, his staff leaving imprints in the earth that would soon be erased by the day's activities. Around Nyala, the village erupted in conversation, everyone trying to understand the extraordinary event they had witnessed. Her mother rushed forward to embrace her, while her father stood stunned by the unexpected resolution. And Jabari remained at her side, not touching her but present, patient, his eyes holding a future neither of them had dared to imagine until this moment. Later, as the sun climbed higher in the sky, Nyala sat with her fully recovered sister, Zola, listening to the child's excited chatter. Life would not be easy, there would be talk, judgment, the weight of broken tradition. But there would also be possibility, choice, the chance to build something genuine rather than merely endure what had been decided for her. She touched her grandmother's amulet, still hanging around her neck, and remembered the old woman's words, even in the hardest earth, seeds find a way to grow. In the hardest of circumstances, something unexpected had blossomed, not just the freedom to choose her own path, but the wisdom to recognize the complex humanity in those she had been too quick to judge. Baba Musa, in his final act as her husband, had given her more than release, he had given her respect. As the village settled into its daily rhythm around her, Nyala felt something she had not expected to find when she fled in the darkness, not just relief, not just hope, but the first fragile tendrils of peace.